Most of us spend a lot of time thinking about how to look valuable. We focus on the right clothes, the perfect posture, the smart words we use. But what if the real secret to being perceived as high value isn't something you perform at all, but something that's just quietly felt by everyone around you?
So I want you to start with this one simple question. Just keep it in the back of your mind. Are you actively performing value, trying to convince people you're worthy? Or are you unconsciously projecting it just by how you show up? Believe me, there is a world of difference between the two.
Okay, so let's break this down. On the left, you've got performed value. This is all the stuff we consciously work on: our tone of voice, our clothes, our vocabulary. But on the right, well, that's where the real game is played: perceived value. This isn't about what people think about you, it's about what they feel. And it's all shaped by these subconscious microsignals that come directly from your nervous system.
And this, right here, is the core idea of this whole explainer. Before you say a single word, before you list a single accomplishment on your resume, your nervous system has already introduced you. Your internal state, whether it's calm or chaotic, is literally broadcasting information to everyone in the room. So, if that's the case, how do we actually cultivate this internal state? Well, let's jump right into our first silent habit. It's called selective clarification, and it's all about what you do when you're misunderstood.
So picture this: someone gets you wrong. The gut reaction for almost everyone is to jump in and correct them, right? We rush to defend ourselves, to justify, to control the story. That's the low value behavior. The high value approach is totally different. It's about pausing and asking yourself, does this misunderstanding actually matter? If it's not strategically important, you just let it go. You trust that who you are will become clear over time.
And here's the psychology behind why that's so powerful. The more frantic you are to defend your image, the more you're signaling to everyone that your image is incredibly fragile. That scramble to fix every little impression actually makes you look less stable, not more. Think about it. Our brains are hardwired to see a calm demeanor as a sign of authority. So when you don't rush to explain yourself, you're projecting this unshakable confidence in who you are. And that is so much more powerful than just getting someone to agree with you in one tiny moment. This whole idea of slowing down leads us perfectly into our second habit. This one is all about those crucial moments of a status exchange. When you get challenged or interrupted or put on the spot. Let's be really clear on the difference. A reaction, that's a reflex. It's fast, it's emotional, it's kind of primal. Think about snapping back at someone or getting defensive. A response, on the other hand, is regulated. It's slower, it's deliberate, it's a choice. It's really the difference between the moment controlling you and you controlling yourself within the moment. And in those really tense moments, this is what it all comes down to. People might not consciously notice it, but their subconscious absolutely does. It clocks who gets flustered first, and the person who stays composed, who stays regulated, they're the one who wins the invisible hierarchy. You know that tiny pause, that split second before someone answers a tough question? Well, that actually has a name. It's called executive control. And that tiny delay is a massive signal to everyone watching that you are in charge of your own mind, not being run by your emotions. It signals strength and intelligence and leadership, all in less than a second. So how do you actually practice this? It's simpler than you think. It's a 3-step process. When you're challenged, first, just pause. Don't say anything. Second, take a quiet breath, just enough to regulate your system. And third, answer evenly. That's it. That is the micro habit that changes the entire game. Okay, let's move on to our third habit. This one shifts away from our reactions and focuses on how we manage our most valuable resource, our time. We call this deliberate allocation. This is a super simple principle from economics, but it applies perfectly to our social lives. If something is always instantly available, its perceived value just plummets. So if you're replying to every email in seconds or rearranging your entire day for every single request, you're signaling that you have an oversupply of your time and attention.
And listen, this isn't about playing games or being hard to get. It's about actually structuring your time around what's important to you. When people learn that your time is structured and valuable, they start to treat their interactions with you with more respect. Your boundaries are what communicate your value.
Okay, the next 2 habits are so deeply connected, we're going to look at them together. They're all about the silent power of our nonverbal communication and our physical presence. Here's the thing. Your body tells the truth way before your mouth does. When we're under pressure, most of us start broadcasting these little signs of threat detection. Our speech gets faster, we start blinking more, we shift in our seat, we fidget. These are tiny micromovements that scream anxiety to everyone, even if they don't consciously realize it.
So what's the antidote to all of that nervous energy? It's just two words. Train stillness. Seriously, learning to slow your breath, relax your face, and keep your gestures calm and minimal when the pressure's on, it's a superpower. It gets rid of all those threat signals, and in any room, the person who seems the least threatened is always the most powerful. And this exact same principle applies to how we handle attention. You see low-value energy constantly competing for it, right? Interrupting to get a word in, talking too much just to hold the space. High-value energy is completely different. It's selective. It doesn't need to chase attention. It allows attention to come to it. When you speak last, but with real intention, your words land with incredible weight.
All right, this brings us to our final habit. And honestly, this might be the most important one of all. We call it the anchor habit because it's the foundation that holds everything else together. And it's all built around one simple idea: being willing to walk away.
This is a huge mental shift, so really let this one sink in. The moment you show that you are not attached to one specific outcome, whether it's getting a deal, being in a relationship, or winning an argument, your perceived value just skyrockets. Why? Because it signals that you have other options. It signals abundance. And that independence completely rewires the power dynamic. So when you pull back and look at all 6 of these habits, what's the one thing they all have in common? They're not about the external polish, the tip of the iceberg. You can have the best clothes and the sharpest vocabulary, but none of it matters if you're a mess on the inside. All of these habits are just expressions of what's going on below the surface, having a solid internal anchor. And when you get this right, a pretty amazing path starts to open up for you. When you stop chasing approval and become psychologically anchored, you first become trusted. And people who are trusted then become respected. And people who are respected, well, they can influence entire rooms without ever having to raise their voice. So let's wrap this all up. What's the final takeaway? It's this: stop performing. Start regulating. When you master these silent habits, you won't ever need to persuade anyone of your worth again. Your calm, regulated presence will communicate it for you long before you ever even introduce yourself.